Hi, my name is Mazarine Trey's, and this is an excerpt from my book, Healing from the Nonprofit Sector. Today we're going to talk about why resisting work works. This was also the topic of my recent keynote at a nonprofit conference in the Midwest. I'm not going to be going into such great detail as I did in my keynote, but I am going to give you a little taste. And if you'd like to learn more about resisting work, there's a book by Peter Fleming of the same name, Why Resisting Work Works. Often we take our work home with us. Think about it when we wake up. Think about it as we're falling asleep. Put off being with friends and family for work, and don't pursue our hobbies because work takes over our lives. What if we could all start resisting work? What would that look like? What if we could stop measuring ourselves in terms of our job, titles, salaries, or body shape? According to Peter Fleming's Resisting Work, if you think you're not getting enough done, you're being told to think this by capitalism. To understand why you feel like you have to work all the time and how capitalism hurts us, we first have to understand white supremacy culture. So, just to make it super clear, we are all brainwashed by white supremacy culture to varying degrees. It's the air we breathe, it's the water we swim in, and so too our organizational cultures are steeped in this. What is white supremacy culture? According to Tima Okun, white supremacy culture is the widespread ideology baked into the beliefs, values, norms, and standards of our groups, many if not most of them, our communities, towns, states, nation, teaching us both overtly and covertly that whiteness holds value. Whiteness is value. It teaches us that blackness is not only valueless, but also dangerous and threatening. It teaches us that indigenous peoples no longer exist, or if they do, they are being exoticized and romanticized or culturally appropriated as we continue to violate treaties, land rights, and humanity. It teaches us that people south of the border are illegal. It teaches us that Arabs are Muslim and that Muslim is terrorist. It teaches us that people of Chinese and Japanese descent are both indistinguishable and threatening as the reason for COVID. It pits other races and racial groups against each other while always defining them as inferior to the white group. So here are some of the characteristics of white supremacy culture. This play out in family, in an organization like a nonprofit, a government agency, or just in general in the world. So some of the characteristics of white supremacy culture are fear, right to comfort and fear of conflict, urgency, either or and the binary, only one right way, denial and defensiveness, individualism, worship of the written word, progress is more, and quantity over quality. So for more on these characteristics and their antidotes, definitely check out whitesupremacyculture.info/characteristics.html, and I'll put that below as a link as well. Tima Okun writes, "The good news is that while white supremacy culture informs us, it does not define us. It is a construct, and anything constructed can be deconstructed and replaced. But first you have to name it and realize that you're doing it." So now I'm going to do a little pivot, and I'm going to talk about inflammation in your body and in our world. Recently I read a book called Inflamed by Rupa Marya and Raj Patel. In this book they make the case for the fact that our world is inflamed, which directly correlates to what is happening in our bodies when they become inflamed. Whether it's farming practices that hurt the land or animals, or whether we're asking our human bodies to be more robotic. When we stop listening to our bodies, to our intuition, we stop listening to the land, and our bodies scream louder and louder to be heard. It's not easy living through late-stage capitalism. Understatement. How do we have self-agency in this moment? What if you just don't want to work anymore? How can we resist work? How are we supposed to survive or even retire in a world on fire? How do we find hope? What does it mean to seek justice? Is it too late for us? I don't have the answers. All I have is a lot of questions. But that's what makes this time exciting. We get to ask the questions together. We get to say, I don't know a lot. None of us have ever lived through a global pandemic before. Our systems were created haphazardly, piece by piece, and they were never set up for justice. They were set up to benefit the people who had the most money and the most power. So the system is working as designed. If you feel like you're looking for justice without a map, well, we all are. What I do know is that it's not about the actions of one person, it's about what we do as a collective from now on. Our mothers and our grandmothers could not prepare us for this. We're entering uncharted territory. But you don't have to go alone. We can work together to transform our world and work less. That's not an oxymoron. What if the discomfort we're going through right now and the deeper, darker emotions are precursors to joy? Could you imagine taking the space to be silent, to be sad, to reflect and grieve? Is this exactly what's missing from our world? What if we can go through this together and come out on the other side with new models of how to live? It's not too late. Think you can do nothing, you're wrong. Do you really think it's game over? Who benefits from you thinking that? What if you could get deeply connected to your desires and the desires of people around you to make deep, lasting, systemic change? Can you imagine that we not only want this change, but need it to keep our planet from going up in flames? Resisting work. What if working less, having more just systems, and treading more gently on the earth was the only thing that would save us? According to a recent Guardian article, if we start working 4 days a week, it will be better for the planet. The world needs us to work less, and if you're over 40, you should be working 3 days a week. What if we got a glimpse of this through a hole in the wall and widened the crack bit by bit, conversation by conversation, until we have a business or organization that supports us, or until we have a system that isn't built on women's unpaid labor? What if we had internal systems that helped us stand up and not back down from our deepest desires for justice? If you've ever wanted your work to mean more, scratch that. If you've ever wanted your life to mean more, then this is your moment. Step away from work. You can step away from the systems that don't work for you and resist work with me. So, what does that look like practically? You still have to keep working to get rent, right? Try leaving work earlier. Try giving the least to your job. Try to actively resist the internalized notion that you're not doing enough. And if you like this, I hope that you check out my book, Healing from the Nonprofit Sector. Link below.